Andre Ward is one of the best fighters in the game. But in my opinion, he's also one of the most boring fighters in the game to watch. And I think most objective, neutral people would probably agree with that. Now, there are going to be some people who enjoy watching defensive boxing. They don't mind when a guy can't punch and all that type of stuff. But I would say the majority of people who don't have a horse in the race, who are not just blindly backing Andre Ward for whatever reason, most people would say, yeah, Ward is not the most entertaining guy in the ring. And that's how I feel about him. Having said that, my motto in this channel has always been, no fighter is below praise and no fighter is above criticism. One of the bits of criticism which I often see leveled at Andre Ward is so absurd and so ridiculous that I felt compelled to make this video about it, because I hear this particular piece of criticism so often about Andre Ward. And as I mentioned in previous videos, there are a gang of people within the boxing community, among boxing fans, who are determined to rubbish Andre Ward every step of the way, constantly criticize him and never give him any credit for anything. You would never imagine that this guy is about to take on Sergey Kovalev, one of the most feared men in boxing, with the amount of criticism that Andre Ward is still getting from large sections of the boxing community. I find it astonishing, to be honest with you, how biased against Andre Ward some people are. Just massively biased. Is he boring? Hell yeah. I don't enjoy watching his fights. But give credit where credit's due. And I'm going to talk about this piece of criticism now. The piece of criticism which is often leveled at Andre Ward, and which I'm sick to death of reading and hearing, is that Andre Ward basically sabotaged his own career and kept himself inactive for no other reason other than he's just a diva. This is the narrative that's going around in certain boxing circles. The idea that this man who's married, who has a family, would deliberately keep himself out of the ring because he's a diva and therefore not be able to provide the kind of living for his family that he wants to provide. That is such a ridiculous claim. I'm just literally sitting here shaking my head. What complete foolishness. Andre Ward was kept out of the ring for as long as he was because of a promotional dispute. That's why. Nothing to do with being a diva. Mikey Garcia just came back from a 2-year absence because of a promotional dispute. Robert Helenius, up until what, a year ago, whatever it was out of the ring for a very long time because of a promotional dispute with his previous promoter, Sauerland. This kind of thing is commonplace in boxing. Boxing is one of the most exploitative sports in the world, if not the most exploitative sport, with the fighters being the ones getting exploited. It's been like that since the beginning. If you look at team sports like football, basketball, gridiron, etc., the participants get treated far better in those sports and get exploited far less generally than they do in boxing. Boxers don't read legalese. They don't understand the business of it. A lot of these kids are from rough neighborhoods, from ghettos, often uneducated. They know nothing about the business side of boxing. All they know to do is how to fight. So you'll find that most professional boxers at one point in their career have been screwed over by a promoter or a manager. Just name any top level fighter and most of them have been through it at some stage. Now, as the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So certainly I expect fighters to learn from their mistakes. Andre Ward made a mistake signing with the Goosens. The promotional situation, I guess the split or the job that he felt the Goosens were doing for him wasn't what he wanted, or maybe it wasn't what he thought he bargained for. And so he was in limbo. He was in a very difficult situation. He tried to sue his promoter, I believe twice. And that kept him out of the ring. But rather than side with the boxer, which is what most fans do with most boxers when they're involved in these promotional disputes, they usually side with the boxer because people generally tend to understand that boxing is very exploitative. And it's usually the fighters who have been hoodwinked. And it's usually the fighters who are getting exploited, not the promoters. It's very rare for a promoter to get exploited by a boxer. Very rare. In terms of a boxer who is signed to that promoter. If you're talking about a boxer who's not signed to him, yeah, that can happen. Boxers can mess the promoter around and whatnot. But generally speaking, when a promoter has a boxer signed, how many times have you heard about the boxer exploiting the promoter? It don't happen. It's usually the promoter taking advantage of the boxer. Most people understand that. So normally during these disputes, most people are backing the boxer and kind of going against the promoter. Now, boxing is not as bad as it used to be in terms of the exploitation of fighters. It used to be far worse than it is today. For example, there's an interview on YouTube with Barry Hearn, the father of Eddie Hearn. And he's speaking very candidly in this interview. And he's saying that in the 90s and earlier, boxing, the relationship between the promoter and the fighter in boxing was like a master-slave relationship. It was literally that bad. And this is Barry Hearn, a promoter himself, telling you this. Right from the horse's mouth, a promoter telling you it was a master-slave relationship. Now, over the past, let's say 15, 16 years or so, we've seen the emergence of people like Golden Boy. We've also seen outfits like Eddie Hearn with Matchroom. Obviously, it's a continuation of what his dad started. And several other younger promotional outfits. Now, most of these younger promotional outfits tend to be less exploitative than the old guard, the Don Kings of the world, etc. But even so, those are just the major new forces within the world of promotion and boxing. Outside of the major new forces, there are still the old guard clinging on. And there are still a lot of the old exploitative practices, which are still pretty rife in boxing. But promoters can't get away with the level of exploitation that they used to be able to get away with as easily. They still do it. Don't get it twisted. Fighters still get exploited. Speak to any professional fighter, they'll tell you this. But it's not as widespread and it's not as, I guess, I don't want to say unregulated, because boxing still is very unregulated, particularly compared to other sports. But yeah, it's just basically not as bad as it used to be, but it's still there. So knowing all that, most people say, okay, Mikey Garcia's got a problem with his promoter. He's out for 2 years. It is what it is. It's promotional issues. It's that type of situation. He don't want to get exploited. He feels like his promoter's doing this, that, and the other. So it's understandable that he's going to be out the ring for a while. It's sad. It's unfortunate. Most people take that view. But when it comes to Andre Ward, he just out the ring because he's a diva. He should have fought. Instead of sulking on the sideline, all this rubbish. Andre Ward is like I say, a family man, somebody who wants to provide for his kids and his wife, etc., and his extended family. This guy had to take a commentary job with HBO just to pay the bills. So please, people, stop it with the nonsense. I know some of you are absolutely deeply biased against Andre Ward for whatever reason. But, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, why are you doing this? Because you don't do this with other fighters. Yeah? And just to finish off, like I say, Wood is about to fight Kovalev. That's a dangerous fight. Most people expect him to lose, or a lot of people expect him to lose anyway. But rather than giving him credit for that, so many people are saying, oh, I can't wait to get him till he gets knocked out. Oh yeah, I can't wait. The same people that have been saying, oh, Wood's a diva, blah, blah, blah. Just full of hatred. It's alarming people. You know, like I say, yes, he's not an exciting fighter. Hell no, he's not exciting. But you have to give credit where credit's due. If you've got an ounce of objectivity in you, and you give him credit here for fighting Kovalev, a guy who very few people want to fight. You give him credit for what he's done in the past at 168. Yes, he had promotional problems. It happens to loads of fighters. Loads of fighters go through it. I expect Wood to learn from it. He should. He shouldn't be making the same mistakes over and over again. Let's hope he don't. And yeah, that's all I got to say really. So drop your comments in the comment section below. Rant over. All right, it's your boy Hatman. I'm out.